All right. You and I'll play. And yeah, and then we're recording, so anyone can do this later on. So you're in a chair?
I am, yes.
All right, let's start in a chair. And actually, let's just go through. So welcome everyone who might be watching this later. So the last two sessions I've done, the first one was around yielding. And you can do that really briefly, just kind of like sitting back in your chair and letting I would say most of your muscle tone just soften. So you're just kind of letting the chair support you and notice what that feels like. And you're welcome to close your eyes. Take a breath, maybe let that breath go out across pursed lips. Just kind of blowing it out and then taking another breath in and blowing it out. And maybe one more. So the first thing we're doing here is just noticing the weight of our bodies, our bones, the breath, and gravitational pull, right? So you can begin to think of the chair is coming up underneath to support you, holding your bones, holding your tissues. And it's always a good idea just to stop and take a few breaths. So any breath pattern, it is nice to calm the nervous system by using an extended exhalation. And that's definitely also part of yielding, right? Part of allowing the body to soften and just unwind a little bit. And the next thing you might do is just gently scan from head to toe and back up again. And notice, like, are you holding tension in your neck? Do you hold tension in your jaw or your shoulders, the top of your shoulders? Do you hold tension in your feet? Sometimes I find people are just barely touching the ground. Can you let your feet really firmly plant on the floor? And notice if that's different than if you're just kind of peeling your feet up off of the floor. Yeah, exactly. Noticing like maybe your chair's up higher. Can you put your chair down so your legs are really soft and able to use the floor for support? That's perfect. Yeah, just noticing these things and then allowing the body to soften. So welcome if you're just joining us. We're practicing yield, which was actually from 2 sessions ago, but we're going to build out from yield into push, which is like the next. So sort of thinking of basic neurological or neurocellular patterns. If you think of an infant that's in a yield state, so we're practicing just letting the chair hold us, letting the breath go comfortably. And so we're using the chair, which is not exactly necessarily how we'd start, but it's a little bit more accessible for those of you in the middle of your workday. You're welcome to get on the floor if that's something you want to do, or if you're doing a replay later. So then you might think about like, okay, well, if I were to resist gravity, right? Just simply resisting gravity, what would that feel like? Would I bring my spine up off the back of the chair, right? So I can yield back into the chair, really letting it support me and letting go. And then I can begin to both push and reach through the crown of the head by lifting my spine off the floor, off the back of the chair, and noting, right? And go back and forth a couple times, just noting how much tone, right? The abdominals start to kick in, the spinal muscles start to kick in. You might feel the bony aspect of your pelvic bowl, right? Just lifting up off of the back of the chair and taking a few breaths here and noticing. So this is literally a reach, right? We're beginning to play with this idea of reach. The crown of the head is reaching away from our tailbone. And you want to begin just thinking about making space between the ribs and your hips. Maybe making space under the armpits, letting breath broaden your side body. And letting the crown of the head lift away from the tailbone. And we're going to take a little hip walk in the chair. So this is a combination actually of pushing and reaching, right? You might feel like you're walking on the base of your hips and just walking forward and back and noticing what's the kind of energy, the tension required, right? Letting yourself, yeah, really nice, being a little bit soft and strong at the same time. So the movement is fluid. You might just kind of feel into your spine as this strange, fabulous structure, right? Around which our rib cage, our internal organs, shoulders are supported by, head and neck, just kind of feeling all of these subtle little pieces of what it means to be an organic, moving body. And then coming forward to the front of your chair, just going to back up. And if it's comfortable, stepping your feet wide. And we're just going to bring, so my hips are right at the front of the chair and my feet are wide. And there's some push. There's a little bit of push in my legs. And then we're just going to reach one arm up and away, letting there be just a long quality of reaching the fingertips away from your hip, away from your knee. Beautiful. And then coming back up to center. And we'll take it on the other side and just a little bit back and forth, reaching the arm, lengthening the tissue between the fingertips and the shoulder and your hip. Beautiful. And then we can take it again on the first side, reaching up and away. Oh, and then maybe noticing what helps in the breath, right? Can you breathe into your side ribs? Can you breathe into your back body? Feeling that abdominal wall lifting and supporting. And you might begin feeling the out breath. Yeah, let's go one more time and then we're going to change up the pattern a little, just a little bit. So coming over into this side reach, taking a breath in and releasing the breath and just noticing all of the little spaces between the bones. Do you feel like there's more space, less space? Can you take another breath and let that one go? Yeah, and then come on up to center, breathing in and up and taking it over to the other side. And then we're going to take same pattern, but we're going to get there a little bit differently. Reaching through the fingers. Good. Breathing in and out. Good. And then breathing up to center. Good. So now what happens if we let the back arm, rather than coming through space beside us, reach through the space in front of us and then roll a little bit open. Yeah. Nice. And then let that arm swing like a pendulum down, and then the other arm swings up and across. Yeah, beautiful. And so just letting yourself move a little bit here. You're welcome to take a tempo that's different than mine. If you want to speed things up, if you want to slow things down. It can be interesting just to begin noticing, like, are there places where things pull? Maybe the reach begins to feel like a float, right? As you let the arms sweep across. Are there different qualities we can bring to a reach? Can it be strong? Can it be soft? Can they both happen at the same time? And then this time we're going to come all the way up to center. And go ahead and let the legs, if it's comfortable for you, reaching the legs out and the arms out. And so now we have spinal extension and limbs all extending out from center, almost like a starfish. And breathing into the back body, the armpits, letting the crown of the head reach away from your tailbone. And you can feel how breath itself can be a reach, right? Breathing, broadening the back body, reaching through the fingertips and letting the breath relax, letting all the muscles and bones soften back. Let's take one more breath here. Breathing in long and relax and release. And you might bring the arms and legs down. You might need a little help. At least I feel like I got stuck out there, but it felt nice. Good. And so just taking a moment to pause, right? Noticing again, like what kind of tone were we just experiencing in terms of reach and that feeling of a body as like a tensegrity structure. It's this biological suspension, right? And so we can really feel that in reach, where the tissues are shaping the bones, essentially. We often think our bony structure, which it does, right, creates the form. But if we can switch and think about the muscles reaching and creating an energetic lift, bringing a little bit of space to the spaces between the bones can be really nice and soothing. And so just taking a couple of breaths, you're welcome to close your eyes, notice any residual sensation in your tissues. Noticing if your temperature has changed, your heartbeat, the breath pattern. Good. So we're going to take a little practice, hopefully that'll feel nice. It's a push and a reach practice together. And we're going to come to standing, and if you have any bony issues that don't love coming up and down, well, actually what I'll do is show two versions. So I do this if folks are just not feeling the love about getting up and down out of the chair a bunch of times, you can also create an as if practice. So bringing your heels just behind your knees at the front of your chair and hinging, right? So this is that axial extension, the spinal extension, reaching forward with the crown of the head, lifting up through the core, and your arms might reach forward, and you can press or push into the soles of your feet as if you were going to stand, feeling your thighs and glutes and calves and everybody coming online, and then relax, letting things soften, yielding back. There's still some tone, but in contrast to this shape and this engagement, it's softer. So moving back and forth, a little toggle between seated, soft, and then chair pose, where we're activating the legs, activating the core, activating the reach of the arms, the reach of the spine, and then relaxing back. You may feel your temperature change, your heart rate, your breath. Yeah, good. One more time. And then we're going to use this same shape and same reach to come all the way up to standing. So reaching forward, pressing into the heels, rising up, and then we're going to come back down and continue to feel the reach through the spine, through the arms, lowering your hips and coming back in the chair. Beautiful. Good. So a couple more times. This is nice. It just brings a little bit of heat to the body, some energy to the muscles. Good. And one more time. And letting the arms come down by your side and just shake things out. I'm just going to change my camera angle so my head's not cut off. And then we're going to come around, and I'm assuming everybody's got a chair for this practice. I'm just going to move back so you can see all of me. And you just want your chair. So if your chair's on wheels, I don't know if you can lock them or just make sure it can't go anywhere. Good. And we're going to come around to the back of the chair and take a lovely yoga pose, downward dog, but we're going to use the chair. So we're not going to go all the way to the floor, but we're going to use it for this reach practice. So with your hands on the chair, just gently walking your feet back away from your hands. Yep, until your hips come over your heels and reaching back with the tailbone, reaching forward with the crown of the head and feeling your shoulders float up towards your ears as your hips reach back over your heels. You might add a gentle movement here by bending one knee and then bending the other so that you get a little shift in the stretch up the side of the leg, into the hip, into the glutes. Reaching back. And then, if you'd like, we're going to add a leg reach. So I'm going to walk my left foot directly under my hips and reach back with my right heel. So this might be called like Warrior 3 if you're familiar with yoga. Essentially just a long stretch from the fingertips through the heel. That's it, yeah. And if you're not comfortable with your hands on the back of the chair, for some, it might be more comfortable to bring your hands to the seat of your chair, over, so your ribs are over the back, reaching that way, and then switching feet. Yeah, good. Yep, that's it. Yeah. And you get to choose whether you like that reaching back with the long arms. This can be nice to do at the kitchen counter sometimes in the morning. Bringing both legs back down to downward dog, taking one more time here. Feeling into the back of the legs, noticing if anything changed from reaching back with one leg. Sometimes activating the leg muscles, they get to reset back to their natural resting length. It can feel like you have a little more room. And then when you're ready, go ahead and walk your feet back to the back of the chair to come up nice and slow and shake things off. Good. Excellent. Good. So we're going to step away from the chair for our next practice. So this is salutation arms. So we're going to stand in mountain, which is essentially neutral, right? Standing in neutral. You've got your feet hip width apart. Your spine is reaching up. Your legs are reaching down. Your shoulders are soft and wide. And the idea of mountain is that lower half, the base, kind of grounding down into the earth, and the upper half of the body floating towards the sky. And so we're going to add a reach practice on top of this, letting the arms come wide and up in salutation. So they reach wide, letting the gaze lift, hands come together at the heart center, gentle bow, bringing the hands down the center line, and then releasing at the bottom and sweeping them wide again. So you're welcome again, if it's skillful for you, letting the eyes close. It might be interesting just to feel this practice from the inside without visual input. If when you close your eyes, you find that makes you dizzy, you're probably going to be happier with your eyes open. Reaching up and floating down. That's beautiful. Letting things reach away, reach up overhead. Beautiful. Let's take it twice more and see if you can let your breath be the metronome or the coordinating movement rhythm. So breathing in and up, and breathing out and down. Breathing in and up. And this time when your hands come to the heart center, go ahead and let them just pause there, letting the chin gently drop towards the hands. And then the next in-breath brings the arms back up the center, palms pressing. Yeah, beautiful. Open wide and down. And then taking a moment again, if you'd like to let your eyes close, you're welcome to. Standing mountain pose. It can be nice between the movements just to stop and notice. What's my breath like? Where has my mind gone? Is my mind present on my feet if I ask it to? Can I focus on my breath? Can I be present in this body, in this moment? Beautiful. Good. We're going to take one more breath right where you are. And then stepping the feet wide. This is a Hannah somatics practice called reaching for the top shelf, and you'll see why. So if my right or your right arm comes up, I'm using my left saying my right arm comes up. And then I've released the left heel, your left heel would release off the floor. So all the weight comes into the right side of the body. And there's a little hip hike here. It's like you're really trying to reach for that topmost shelf. Yep. And then letting that heel come down, letting that hip lengthen, letting that arm come down. And then changing to the other side. So the arm comes up, the heel lifts on the opposite side, pushing you onto your left leg, and then reaching up as if you were getting something off the top shelf. And there's this funny squeeze on the right side as the left side lengthens. And we're going to go back and forth just a little bit to feel that. So reaching up, squeezing your left side as the right side reaches. And then coming down, the heel comes down, the hip comes down, and then reaching up for the other side. Nice. Good. And so just beginning to notice here, this could be a little bit of right to left coordination, top to bottom coordination, pushing the floor away through that supporting leg. Yeah. Letting the eyes reach, taking in the space you're in. So you can kind of imagine, right? If we were on the floor, on the belly, this would be in some ways very similar to some of these first initial crawling movements, right? Coordinating a little wiggle on one side with a reach on the other. Good. That's it. Let's take it once more each side. And just letting yourselves feel that right side, left side, back and forth. One side squeezes while the other side lengthens. And the other side lengthens as the first side squeezes, and then coming back to neutral, coming back to check in, temperature, breath, gravity. Yeah, and there might even be a little wiggle, right? Just letting some of these pieces work on us. Yeah, loosening things up, activating the muscles often brings a realization of tension. Yeah, beautiful. Good. So let's take maybe just to settle things down, and then we'll come back to the chair to close. But in this standing position, if we think of, imagine there's like a big pencil or a paintbrush coming out of the crown of the head. And we're just going to take very sweet little circles with the crown of the head. So you're painting a circle on the ceiling over you. Taking a few rounds, almost you're looking for a quality of just easy bobbling reach, right? And then when you're ready, taking it the other way. And we're going to do it small to begin with, just to feel front, side, back, side of the neck. Maybe feeling the way the energy of our spines moves out through the crown of the head, right? So technically the skull being somewhat different than the spine, but energetically being very much a piece. And then going back to your first circle and almost like a nautilus shell, letting, or those ever broadening, like, or maybe like a labyrinth, right? Thinking of like the center circle is the smallest, and then you're letting that circle grow, taking ever widening circles with the head and neck, being tender, and then reversing the direction to come back to center. So going from broad circles to smaller circles. Yeah, just letting it be soft. Noticing there's still a quality of reach through the energy of your body standing, feeling grounded in your feet. And then eventually coming all the way back to stillness, the head resting easy. Yeah. Feeling into the soles of your feet. I'm going to invite you just to kind of feel the full arc coming back to your chair to sit down just briefly before you go back into your day. Good. And go ahead and reach back through your tailbone, through your sits bones, and let your spine come back onto the back of the chair. Letting your eyes close, letting your feet feel firmly planted on the floor. You might feel the weight of your hands resting on your thighs. Letting the eyes close if that's skillful, feels comfortable, leaving them open if that's preferable. But just taking a moment to check in and notice what's changed since we began. Right? So noticing your yield might feel different than it did half an hour ago. And what about this shape and your body and your mind and your breath has changed? You may be warmer, your breath may be fuller, your tissues may be more lively. You may feel grounded. You may feel energized. You may feel relaxed. Just noticing the impact of the movement practice on you. Nice. Beautiful. So thank you so much for taking a little bit of your day with me, filling your cup so you can fill the cup of others. And maybe I will see you after Thanksgiving. I think I'm back on November 30th. So thank you so much for joining me. That was really fun.
That was magical. I appreciate it.
Good, good. My pleasure. My pleasure.